Hello friends, my name is Jyoti. I am assistant professor in Department of Management, School of Management Sciences, Lucknow. In my earlier video, I have covered the topic sales forecasting and also the introductory part of sales forecasting. In that video lecture, I have covered like importance and features, why it is required and what are the factors considered. So, you just go through that video and just grasp the basic concepts of sales forecasting. And in this video lecture, I will just cover different methods of sales forecasting that are basically used by the companies in order to forecast the future sales. As the forecasting method, sales forecasting method divided into two aspects or two types of method. The first is qualitative method and second one is quantitative method. Qualitative, firstly I will discuss qualitative forecasting method. Qualitative forecasting methods are basically subjective in nature and involves the response of a human man or human being, or basically based on the human expert and the human opinion. And this particular method is appropriate, and these methods are appropriate when very less historical data are available and no such vast literature views and data are available. Then the sales manager can adopt this particular these type of methods in order to forecast the sales. These are the methods of sales forecasting under qualitative approach, like survey of buyers opinion, second one is test marketing, third sales force composite opinion, and next is executive method, and fourth one is Delphi method. Means these types of methods come under qualitative method, in which we will see that the response and the judgment or the statement of different human being are being collected, and on those collected responses and the statements, forecasting is being done by the companies. So, in the later slide these methods will be discussed one by one. The first method is survey of buyers opinion. Buyers means the customers who are using the product. So, marketers basically ask buyers, means whatever the product they are using, means in future time of period how many units will be purchased by them, and they would like to purchase how much quantity they will like to purchase, and what can be the demand scenario of them, what can be the response of them. It is basically done under this particular method. It is suitable in the conditions like when the buyers or the customers are very well defined and they are very limited in number, because if you are going to collect opinion of buyers, those are limited in numbers and less in numbers. So, accordingly you can collect the responses very easily, but if the population is high and if you are going to cover or collect the opinion of the mass market, it is very difficult to collect. So, this particular method is suitable in the case of well defined buyers, means you know you have the identified figure, you have the identified customers through which you can collect the data, and this particular method is suitable when the customers are very less in numbers. Advantage of this method is obviously simple and easy, because if you you know the who will be your customer through to whom you can collect, you have to collect response. So, it is very simple and very easy to collect response and collect data, and on the basis of this on the basis of the response and the statement that they have given regarding the product and the future scenario, just estimation is being done by the company. Disadvantage of this particular method is that as human being, the response that the customers are giving, they can change their opinion very frequent, and there is no obviously enforcement on buyers that whatever the product they are using right now, they will be used the same product in future time period. Means there is no enforcement, as customers are basically called the king, they can set their set of preference and preference of the product and services on their own choices. So, there is no enforcement or no no compulsion you can set on or give on customers that they have to repeat their behaviors towards the same product or service. So, these are basically the disadvantages of this particular method. The second method is test marketing. This particular method is suitable in the case of a new product, means when a company is going to offer a new product for the first time, then this particular method is suitable. In this method, basically a sample of a particular the product whatever the company wants to offer to the customers, they just give for using and accordingly they just collect the response or the feedback, means how is the product and how is the performance of the product, and whatever the response and the feedback that collected by the set of customers, accordingly the company can forecast or estimate the future sales, how much sales the company will be able to cover in future time period. And for this purpose, basically the company or the marketers basically select a specific set of region or a particular place for testing out this particular method. Advantage of this particular method is it gives the real feedback about the customer reactions, because if you are giving the product to number of respondents to some respondents, then you are able to give the reactions or the feedbacks or their facial expression that they are showing towards the product. So, it is easy to estimate by using this particular method for estimating the future sales of the product. And this disadvantage of this particular product method is it may be that whatever the respondent that you have selected for using your product, it is not necessary that those set of customers or respondents will use your product, purchase your product or use of product. So, there is no control over that who will purchase your new product, and it may be that the rivals or the competitors just use this particular competitive advantage and take the position of yours whatever you want to take. So, it can be one of the disadvantage of this particular methods, because as there is no any control over the customers part. So, they accordingly can switch their behaviors, or whatever the set of respondents that you have selected for the response, they may also switch their behaviors towards other your competitors product or other products alternatives. Next method is sales force composite. Sales force simply means the response is basically generated from a group of sales representative that basically are working in their areas, in their assigned areas. So, basically under this method, marketers or the concerned person who is going to forecast, they just ask their sales representative or the sales manager at different sales territories about the sales scenario or the demand scenario of the product, and whatever the response or whatever the answers they have given to the marketer, accordingly the company or the marketer just forecast the future sales of the product. Advantage of this particular method is obviously it is also simple, because you are collecting the response from your representative, from your salesperson. It is very easy or very simple to collect the response from them. And disadvantages, basically it somehow lacks that response that will come from your sales representative, because an analyzing capability is one of important aspect, and it may happen that it may be that the human resource or the salesperson that you have hired, they do not have so much of analytical skills, so that they just give the response or the scenario of the future course of action to you. So, it is one of the disadvantage associated with this particular method. Next method is executive method. Under executive method, company basically forms a committee in which people are from different department of the same company. Means the key people, it may be that the key people of the concerned department, they are formed in a committee, and they are collectively asked for giving their response about the future course of action. Means future scenario or future demand of the product, means how as per their expertise or their knowledge, what can be the sales scenario or what can be the demand of the product in the future time period. So accordingly they just give their responses to the concerned marketer or concerned company, and on the basis of the response collected from them, the forecasting is being done for the product for a particular future time period. Advantage of this particular method is, obviously it is very easy and simple to use, because you are collecting responses again from your internal employees or the key employees of different departments of the company. And disadvantages is that because you are forecasting the demand, forecasting the scenario for the whole company, you are not segregating and you are not differentiating which particular department or which particular product category will achieve this particular target. So, it is very difficult to segregate the whole demand into smaller demands in the demand or the scenario of different departments. And the next disadvantage is what key member can easily influence each other, because they are working in the same organization. Accordingly they can discuss and influence their opinion, influence the opinion of one another. So, it can be one of the disadvantage of this particular method. Next method is Delphi method, very similar to executive method, but it is somehow different to the earlier one in context of the members, that the committee in earlier one the committee formed from the members within the organization, but in Delphi method members are from both inside and outside the company, and the members of this particular committee under this method do not know each other and never come together. In this method, basically a person plays a role of a moderator who organizes all the contacts, means who are in touch with the internal inside employees and also as well as the outside persons of the for involved in this particular for this particular purpose, or accordingly moderators prepare the data, whatever the basis that have been decided for calculating the future sales, prepare the data and send to members to make their own estimate. And members from inside and outside, basically they estimate, they give their estimation in context of future. They have just written, they give their consent and give their estimation in a written form and send to the moderator, and moderator again make some corrections and send again to the members involved in this particular method, and this process repeats until all members agree on same forecast. Means they have to agree on, it is very required or it is very necessary that all members should agree on the same forecast or same figure. So, generally it is suitable for long term forecast. Advantage of this method is no group pressure, because they are not knowing, they are not interacting with whatever the members involved in this particular method for estimating the sales, they are not interacting with one another. So, no group pressure is involved, more objective because they have to give their opinion on their own. And disadvantage of this particular method is because sending and reverting back and come to a conclusion or come to a consensus, it takes long time. So, disadvantage of this particular method is that it takes long time. So, these are the methods of qualitative method. As discussed earlier, qualitative methods when historical data are very less, and based these methods are basically based on the expertise and the judgment or the statement or the expertise of different person related to that concerned field. Now, come forward, the second types of methods are quantitative methods, and these methods are basically based on mathematical models and objective in nature, and basically require certain calculation and computation based on mathematics. Now, come forward types of quantitative methods, and these are the methods used by calculating by using different formulas and models and obviously the maths. The first one is time series model and the second one is regression analysis. Time series model, the first one is naive method, the second one is simple moving average, the third weightage moving average, exponential smoothing, and the last the broader one, that is regression analysis. So, in the later slides these methods will be discussed by using some calculation or some numerical or sub. As one question I have taken that forecast the sales of ABC Limited for the month of May using time series method. Time series, under time series methods, as I have in the earlier slide I have mentioned that naive, simple moving average, weightage moving average, exponential smoothing, these are the methods come under time series model. So, you have to calculate, you have to forecast the sale of the month of May by using. So, first method used that is naive method. Naive method basically for calculating a naive forecast, simple, take the previous month of sales and plug it to the adjacent period. The equation for this method is previous month's sale. So, actual if we are going to forecast the sale of May month, the simple as it has been written that adjacent year means it has been written that 500 April month. So, under naive method for the month of the forecasting or the sales scenario of the May of month, the month of May, that is 500, means whatever the sales scenario of the actual, and if we are going to calculate the next month sale under naive method, we can use just next adjacent to that particular month. Means if we are seeing for the month of February 300, March 100, April 200, April, because in the question it has mentioned that we have to calculate the forecast of month of May. So, adjacent to month, that is April, means 500. So, again in this method the company is able to see the actual figure, the quantity figure, means the company has to forecast or the 500 means 500 units they will produce, they have to achieve. Next method is simple moving average. Simple moving average, like month have been given and the actual figure has been given. We have to forecast the sales scenario for the month of May, and under simple moving average, the formula is simple, like average of February, March and April, means whatever the month the forecasting, whatever the month that we are going to forecast the demand for that particular month, adjacent the next 3 adjacent the month and divided by basically the average of those 3 months. Like if we are going to calculate the figure of May, like 500, 200 and 100, how much? 5 to 500 plus 200 plus 100 means 5 to 7 or 800. 800 average of means we are now taking 3 months, the figure of 3 months. So, number of months is 3, the total figure is 266.6, means 266 point is basically the forecast for the month of May, that is calculated by using the formula simple moving average. Now, the next is weightage moving average. For this purpose, basically the formula for forecasting the sale by using this particular method is whatever the month, like we have to calculate the month of 5th number, means the month of May. So, basically we will take 3 figures. So, in this case, in these 2 months that is not applicable, that is applicable basically because we have to take 3 numbers. So, like 2, if we are going to calculate the forecast for the month of April, so we have to calculate like 2 into 1 plus 2 into 4 plus 3 into 6 divided by total number of months, like 1 plus 2 plus 3, 1 plus 2 plus 3, figure is 2 plus 8 plus 18 plus 3 to 5 plus 1 6. 28 by 6, that is 4.6. So, the sale the forecasted figure for the month of April is basically 4.6. In the same way, if we are going to calculate the forecasted figure for the month of May, that will be 4 multiplied by 2 plus 3 multiplied by 6 plus 4 multiplied by 5 divided by 2 plus 3 plus 4. Figure obviously 4, 3, 9, and after calculating we are able to get the figure, that is 46. 46 divided by 9, that value comes 5.1. So, if under this method for the month of sale the forecasted figure is basically 5.1. Next is exponential smoothing method. Exponential smoothing method basically assumes that the more recent observation have the highest predicted value, means gives more weight to recent period. Like this is the formula for calculating under this method, like f t plus 1 is equal to f t plus alpha multiplied by a t minus f t. What is these values? F is equal to f t plus 1 is equal to forecasted value for the time, the value that we have to forecast, a t actual value at the time t, and alpha is smoothing constant. Smoothing constant is just like a type of error, because it is based on estimation. Estimation cannot be correct always, it has certain error. So, that error basically is smoothing constant, and alpha value basically represents that error. And the question is basically by calculating, by using understanding the this particular method is weekly demand are given. What are the exponential smoothing forecast for the period of second, third week using alpha is equal to 0.10. 0.1 because error we are considering that 1% can be the error. So, the value is 0.10. And the week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 figures are given and the demand also given. So, we have to calculate the weekly demand, that is a value of one particular period is have been given. So, if we are going to calculate the value for the period of 1 week, so F2 is equal to the period that we have to calculate the demand of the forecasted figure is equal to F1 plus alpha alpha into A1 minus F1. If we see the value F1 is equal to 100, exponential value or alpha value is 0.1, A1 is equal to 100, A1 is equal to 100 and F1 is equal to मतलब जो actual figure that is F1 is 100. So, 100 plus if we see 100 minus 100 0 multiplied by 0.1, that gives the value of 0, means actual value for the forecasted value for the week 2 will be 100. Then comes value 100. The next method we have covered in fact all the methods under if we see about the type quantitative methods and the time series model. These 5 methods we have applied the formulas of under these methods, and we are able to forecast the actual figure or the quantity that will be demanded for a future time period, like naive method and simple moving average method, weightage moving average method and exponential smoothing method. And the last one is the regression analysis. Regression is basically one of the statistical tool which checks the impact of one variable into another variable. So, there must be a relationship in order to, if the company is going to check the impact of one variable into onto another variable, firstly the company have to check out that is there any correlation between these variable or among the available variables. If there is a correlation either positively or negatively, then the impact is being checked by the company. So, regression is basically one of the statistical tool that can check the impact of one variable into another variable, as mentioned in the slide that regression can be defined as a functional relationship between two or more correlated variables. So, it is very required that if you are going to apply the concept or the formulas of regression, firstly we have to check out the correlation aspect or correlation availability among the variables. And it is used to predict one variable given the other, means there must be 2 variables at least, so that the impact can be checked out. Variable means one can be dependent or one can be independent. The impact of independent variable on dependent variable can be checked out, like sales and profit. sales can be a independent variable and profit can be a dependent variable. So, accordingly if there is a relationship, obviously there is a positive relationship, means either the more the sales will be increased, the more profit will be gained by the company. So, in this case the regression analysis can be applied, the formulas of regression can be applied, and least square method is one of the method used under regression. Means this particular method basically can be applied by using regression analysis. Means among the company, these are the methods available for forecasting the sale. The company is free to opt any one of the or combination of these methods. Means the company can singly go for qualitative methods or quantitative methods or combination of these two methods in order to forecast the sales. At the last, general guidelines principles for forecasting, means if you are going to forecast the sales for your company, these things should be considered and these guidelines are there. So, you should be very careful while deciding or determining your forecasting program. Like forecasts are more accurate for larger group of items. Obviously, forecast, if the company is forecasting, it is very it is more accurate in the context of large production or large group of items. Every forecast should include an estimation of error. Exactly, like forecasting cannot be correct all the time, or forecasting basically itself word estimation. Estimation cannot be correct, it may sometimes correct or wrong. So, it always involves an estimation or error, and before applying any forecasting method, the total system should be understood. Means whatever total system means the sales scenario, the availability of the manpower or the availability of the resources, availability of the machineries that the company has, the total system must be understood. And before applying any forecasting method, the method should be tested and evaluated. Means whatever the method you are using, you just know the pros and cons of every method, or before applying you just test out the applications or the result of those methods, and if you see that there is a positive consequence and you are getting a positive scenario or positive things by using that particular method, to just go to adopt that particular method. These are the references. You want to gather more information about the methods of sales forecasting, you just go through that. Thank you.